Hello and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this.
Today, we're travelling back to 1973, where England host the crucial World Cup qualifying game at Wembley. Their opponents are Poland's somewhat forgotten golden generation and their goalkeeper, who has to be seen to be believed. It's an absolute classic, and we're going to cover it in its entirety. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good. You all right?
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm quite chirpy. I'm quite cheerful. Let's just say it. Podcasts are being recorded left, right, and centre, and our schedule is always changing depending on the weather and our various ever-changing moods. But we've just witnessed the World Cup draw for the Qatar World Cup. Exciting. England have got Iran, the USA, and either Scotland, Wales, or Ukraine. We might even know who we've got by the time this comes out.
I don't even know when those games are, actually. They've all been clearly postponed for obvious reasons, yeah. But yeah, exciting at least, isn't it?
Absolutely. We did cover that on our social media channels, and we'll continue to hype that up. If you do want to check us out on social media, we're at isthisengland on Instagram and Twitter. You can also email the show at isthisenglandpod@gmail.com. But today we're going back to 1973. England are somewhat up against it. I mean, they've taken it down to the wire, trying to qualify for the 1974 World Cup, and they're welcoming Poland to Wembley. We'll get into the game, but as always, we've got a couple of pleasantries to do, starting with the time capsule. So the year's 1973, quite a long time before either of us were born.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yet we can still find something amazing to put in our time capsule. Nick, do you want to go first?
Just an edit point here. Clearly, I've cracked under the pressure and totally forgotten the name of one of my favourite albums ever. It's actually What's Going On by Marvin Gaye instead of the incredible song Let's Get It On. Let's get back to the pod. Yeah, sure. So what I'm putting in our time capsule is the album Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye.
Let's get it on.
I mean, just beautiful, isn't it? Nothing really captures the 70s and that cool smoky bar kind of feel than this, does it?
No, it's an incredible album, start to finish, one of the all-time greats. A perfect addition to the time capsule.
And a perfect album as well, really. I mean, I remember when I first heard it, I'd heard not singles really, but heard pieces of that music, and then you see that music just float through the entire thing. It's something I always used to listen to when I was kind of growing up and just wanted to experience different music. I still put it on a lot now as well. I think it's a masterpiece.
I was going to say then that it does actually, in my opinion, get better with age. I think you tend to understand the underlying themes a bit more as you get a bit older.
Yeah.
And the whole struggle that young Marvin was up against to actually release the album. It was deemed not commercial enough to be a success, yet it ended up being the greatest selling Motown album of all time.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah, I think there was an anniversary of it recently as well. Like, would have been nearly 50 years or
Probably
something.
some box set knocking about with every single take from the album sessions. Bring them on. My time capsule isn't as sophisticated, but it's more tasty, potentially. In 1973, the first Pizza Hut opened in the UK in Islington. We make notes before a podcast, and when I made my notes for this time capsule, I was rather hungry. And I've been wanting a Pizza Hut recently. My colleague, Cash, who created our Is This England logo, me and him have this, well, it's kind of a standing joke now, but we keep saying one day, mate, we're going to go out for lunch and it's going to be the Pizza Hut buffet.
Oh.
You know, the classic Pizza Hut buffet.
One of our first ever meetings would have been at one of the Pizza Hut buffets, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, in Wolverhampton.
Yeah, definitely. I've always partial to one of those.
So if we're talking about you're partial to one of those Pizza Hut buffets, can I just ask a really generic podcast question? Can we rank the big three? And there's better pizzas out there than these commercial big three, but Domino's, The Hut, and Papa John's. I'm talking. Give me 3 to 1. Your take?
See, I don't really eat meat anymore, so a lot of these I don't think I've had since.
That's no excuse. You can still
it.
enjoy a pizza.
I can enjoy a pizza, but I'm just saying, like, my tastes have probably changed over the last couple of years. So I don't even know when I've last had a Papa John's.
So that's number 3 for you.
Probably, yeah.
I'd probably put. This is difficult. I'd probably have to put the Hut at number 3.
Really?
Number 2, I would go with Big Papa's.
You're putting Domino's top.
Yeah. So what's your top?
I may be putting the Hut up there. I think the Hut's there. I think even though I've probably not had one for a long time, I do see they do a lot of like nice fake meat options. So I'd probably I may even put it upside down.
Domino's have actually started to do the fake meat options there. The reason I'd put them at the top is dessert.
Dessert. See, I'm not a big dessert guy.
More precisely their cookies, which are a work of wonder.
Are you still mad on those?
Still mad on those.
When they're nice and warm and they arrive.
Ooh. Ooh. Well, we thought that was tasty. We're going to look forward to we're going to actually look back, obviously, to the state of football around the time of the game. So obviously we're talking 1973, early 70s, about 7 years since England lifted the World Cup, about 6 years since we covered England versus Scotland when Scottish football was ruling the world and there was all sorts of business going on in English football. What was happening in 1973 around this time?
So if we're looking at the 73-74 season, Leeds United were crowned champions of the top division with their beloved manager Don Revie bowing out to take a rather important job at the end of the season.
Can I admit something to you here? Don't really know much about Don Revie.
Yeah.
At all. Can you give me in a nutshell what he's about?
Again, my knowledge of Don Revie essentially comes from the Damned United films.
Yeah, I need to watch them because you keep referencing them.
I think it's really good. I think first time around watching it, you look at some of the performances and they're really good, and you get to know the story a lot more about what happened with him and Brian Clough and the drama that Clough brought with him. But speaking of Brian Clough, his Derby would finish 3rd in this season, and he would infamously replace Revie at Leeds.
I've kind of heard that story. Is it as far as I'm concerned, you won all your medals by cheating?
Yeah, you can throw them all in the bloody bin, all that kind of stuff. But that was kind of what was going on at the time with Clough being a big personality, and we'd get onto Clough a little bit later actually in our notes.
He's ever present. For someone who didn't manage England, he's popped up quite a lot so far.
Seen probably as the man who should have managed England but never did. But I can't imagine him bowing down to some of the FA requests, and he'd have just caused too much trouble. I think it would have been a very, very short period with England.
If I were to say to you, who's the other man who should have managed England but never did, who would you say?
I don't know. Are you thinking of Harry Redknapp?
I'm thinking of Harry Redknapp.
Maybe
not my personal opinion. It just felt like
it
how
was
we
going to
spoke.
happen. It felt inevitable. It was like when Sam Allardyce took the job. It was like, well, it was going to happen at some point. So
I'm pretty sure Harry would probably been a bit more lenient with understanding the FA's requests. Yeah, wherever you want, guys.
Yeah, I'll turn up. Don't worry. I'll turn up in my car. I'll talk out the window at you. No problem.
So you've got Leeds at the top of the league, and Derby knocking about near there, challenging. Something interesting was happening down the bottom. Well, interesting in the sense of what we'd come to expect in decades after this. Manchester United end up being relegated in this season as well.
Yeah. So Man United go down and are relegated after Manchester City's Dennis Law scored to condemn them to defeat at Old Trafford. It's seen as Dennis Law coming back to relegate his former team, but in reality, results were already going against Manchester United, and they'd have gone down if the goal didn't happen anyway. But it's still a big moment.
Dennis Law, the man just does what he wants. There needs to be a Dennis Law podcast out there because I'm so interested. I mean, we watched the England-Scotland 1967 game and I thought he was incredible. Really amazing performance, and obviously there's all these stories about his time at Manchester United, but relegating them with Manchester City, I don't know how you've just explained that it's not really accurate, but I guess the story is
the story is better than the truth at that point, isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely.
It is iconic. I think he scored at the Stretford end with a back heel as well, like very late in the game, and it was just kind of like silence in the ground, like no one knew what to do.
Cold-blooded killer. What a man. The Cups in England, we've got second division Sunderland actually lifting the FA Cup. They beat the almighty Leeds United 1-0 in the final.
Yeah, Sunderland side that day didn't have a single player capped at international level, and this would be the first time post-war that team outside the top division would win the FA Cup.
this isn't a hot take or anything controversial, but I always like to see somebody outside of the top tier lift the FA Cup. Even when Wigan lifted it and they were in the top tier, but they ended up getting relegated, that still felt a bit special. Do you think it's harder these days? Or is it just still luck of the draw? And
I think there's a little bit of luck in there because you could always play teams around you. But even a team, it's got to the point now where you're going, a team outside the top 7 making the FA Cup final, it just feels like such a bigger thing. And maybe going to Wembley's been devalued because you play the semi-finals there as well. I don't think anybody enjoys that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's outside the top 7. There's always a glimmer of hope by sort of December time, but then when you get round to March and April, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's Man City and Liverpool again in the final, or Chelsea.
It's usually Chelsea, City. It feels like every year almost, or Arsenal. In fairness, they end up being in the FA Cup final quite a lot.
So that's English football. On the European scene, what have we got there? Who's the kings of Europe at this time?
So the European Cup final would be between Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid, and it would be held in Brussels.
That's a ooh.
Tasty 70s tie, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even today, that would be great. Atletico Madrid, because they're overshadowed by the Real Madrid and Barcelona dominance. You forget that, they've got their own history, their own successes.
Oh, absolutely.
Even before Simeone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then you look at Atletico here. I think this is probably the first time they'd reached the European Cup final. But the game, deep into extra time, Atletico took the lead only for Bayern to score in the 120th minute to set up a replay, which Bayern then won 4-0 a couple of days later.
It reminds me of Atletico in the 2014 Champions League final.
Yeah,
they were 1-0 up until the 93rd or 94th minute when Ramos equalised, and they'd lose in extra time 4-1. Bale, and I think, didn't Ronaldo score the 4-1 penalty and took his shirt off and did backflips and everything?
Just to make it all about him right at that last minute, really. I think he was doing like a documentary for like a documentary was being done about him. And that was like, it was probably framed as, look, he scored the winning goal in the Champions League final, when in reality it was, the fourth in a hammering in by the end, because Atletico were just so out of it.
Yeah, well, there was obviously not just the European Cup, as we now would call the Champions League. Back in the day, we had the Cup Winners' Cup. Yeah. Maybe the Europa League equivalent. I'm still never quite sure of this.
I think this would be the third tier, because I think you'd have the UEFA Cup around this period as well still, I want to say. Like you say, it gets quite murky here, doesn't it? But you've got the Cup Winners' Cup, which had its own tradition. This would be won by Magdeburg, who beat AC Milan.
Magda who? Magda what? Magda when?
I genuinely never heard of them.
No, I've never heard of Magdeburg.
But they'd play AC Milan and won 2-0 in the final in Rotterdam. Currently, they're in the German third division, and to me, that just sounds like a really good football manager save in terms of getting them back.
Yeah, get them back to the 1973 glory.
Yeah. And in addition as well, this you see that with German football, it's just a real dominant period for them, isn't it? With Bayern Munich and Magdeburg winning.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised there's not been more German dominance on this podcast so far.
Yeah, we've not really spoke about Germany, have we?
No, I mean, there's time for it. We'll get to Germany, sure. But we on the episodes we've covered, their teams have never really been, the kings of Europe. But I guess in 1973 there were.
Yeah, especially around this period. I mean, we can start looking build up to the game itself, actually, at this point, because that's where we find England, really.
Yeah. So the build up to the game, we're talking 1973. So we know Germany are the club kings of Europe, but England want to be in that pot. They want to be in with a share to be in the kings of world football. To do so, they're going to have to beat Poland. Is that right?
Yeah. So looking at the game today, they are. Well, and we'll go into the backstory in a minute, but they are playing Poland at home, and they need to win to be able to go to the 1974 World Cup. Anything else is not good enough.
Peril.
Yeah, very much so.
The word peril is actually used by the commentator in the game, and it's a great word to describe it. That is not comfortable, and we're kind of conditioned at the moment to not even think about. We've said this before about qualifying as a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously, from time to time, England can take it down to the wire, and they're doing so today. So previously, the tournament 2 years before was Euro 72. And they'd failed to qualify for that. They lost a 2-legged playoff, 3-1 to current world champions, West Germany.
Yeah, the first mensch.
All the goals came in the first leg at Wembley, so the Germans managed to the West Germans managed to close it out on the second leg of that playoff. England didn't qualify for Euro 72. That feels crazy considering they won the World Cup 6 years before.
I think it's a lot smaller competition. Like I think the Euros back then were only 4 teams that went there, because I think England may have gone there around the time when they'd won the World Cup or just before, and I think they maybe lost in the semi-finals around that time. So it was a much different Euros to what we're used to these days. But yeah, still to be world champions not that long ago, really, since a previous World Cup is. Yeah, it's a bit crazy.
Well, if there's one thing that this podcast stands for, it's trying to bring the home nations back.
Oh yes.
And England were competing in a home nations tournament in May time of this year.
Yeah. So they'd opened their home nations tournament by losing 1-0 to Northern Ireland at Wembley, but managed to pick up the wins against Wales and Scotland away.
Big Sven-Göran Eriksson energy there, losing 1-0 to Northern Ireland.
I know, yeah.
Beating Wales and Scotland. So I don't even know. Was that a successful home nations? I guess
you can never really find the tables of these. It just feels like they were just like, oh, we've played those games, and whoever feels like they won back then.
It's just like what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of just like bragging rights, isn't it?
Maybe that's where it started, really, because bragging rights is used so much these days.
Big. That's the real quiz energy.
Oh, very much so. But
yeah, Northern Ireland would be going, we beat you. That's the real quiz.
Yeah, see, we're actually champions because we beat you. So that's the end of that. But apparently, the Scotland game in particular is brutal with all sorts of fights breaking out amongst the players. So much that the referee has to actually ask the captains to calm the players down 19 minutes into the game.
That's crazy. We looked at the 1967 game between England and Scotland. There was a needle in there. There was a lot of fouls and what we would kind of shiver at seeing and we did, seeing in the modern day. But it wasn't like. It wasn't vicious.
I think it's 2 things, isn't it? One, it's quite cartoonish because it's just players kind of like just bouncing off each other and getting up. But it's also quite gentlemanly of just like, well, you've just smashed me, but it doesn't really matter. Just get on with it. I think by this point in the 70s with football, it's getting a lot more vicious, which I think you see in today's game as well. It feels like there's more bite to it.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely agree with that. Just on the England-Scotland thing, so they had a violent game. They actually played Scotland 3 times in 1973. That seems
excessive.
Yeah, that's a bit much. And any of those of note, do you think?
Yeah, so when they play them 3 times in the space of the year, you'll be glad to know there's another Scotland game which has taken my eye and I'd enjoy us to do in the future.
Just think of the listeners, Nick. Yeah. This is this England versus Scotland, which you want it to be. And I know we stand for the home nations thing, but come on, let's give the Welsh a bit of representation.
I was going to say, what happens if Scotland get through that Euro playoff?
Oh my God!
I think this is the one I'd pick.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's not going to be Euro 2020, is it?
Yeah, it's just such a dull game. But the game I'm thinking of is there was a 5-0 win for England at Hampden Park in the Scottish FA centenary match, and it was Bobby Moore's 100th cap for England as well.
Good old Bobby Moore.
I know.
Yeah, Bobby. Well, we'll get on to Bobby Moore in a little bit. So the Euros are done, the home nations are kind of done as well, and this is World Cup qualifying. England are drawn in a group with Wales and Poland, a 3-team qualifying World Cup qualifying group.
Yeah,
quite bizarre.
Yeah, I think it was the same. I don't know when it changed, but it was definitely in the 60s because I think the game we covered for the Scotland 67, I think that was a World Cup. No, it would have been a Euros qualifier. So I think you were just given a team close to you basically, and then another team around that time too.
Interesting. So we've got England start the campaign, obviously trying to get to the World Cup 1974 to start the campaign with a 1-0 win at Ninian Park in November 72. But they can only draw 1-1 with Wales at Wembley. So the next group of games for England come against Poland, the first in Chorzów.
Chorzów, yeah. I'm going to go with that, yeah, for now.
There's going to be plenty of Polish names butchering throughout this, so that's probably just the start of that. So let's go on to Poland and let's look at where this Polish side was. It's really quite an interesting story, this Polish team. They didn't qualify for Euro 72, same as England. But whereas England's schedule was absolutely packed to the rafters, Poland only played 2 official games in the whole of 1972. But there's much more to the story than that.
Yeah. So actually, they would end up winning Olympic gold in 1972 in Germany.
Olympic gold, something that we don't necessarily associate with footballing excellence.
Yeah, well, I think it's just because in England especially, because it has to be Team GB really, because we've only seen that once in our lives. Maybe are we able to stretch to that? Is this Team GB?
I don't know if I want to watch that again.
They were very drab games, weren't they? And it's always you got to play like certain players under a certain age, which I think a lot of other countries are a lot more used to, like your Brazils, your Argentinas, your Spain. It's more for them really.
If I ask you to think of Team GB and one player, who comes to mind?
Did Craig Bellamy play?
Maybe. Daniel Sturridge is the one that would come to mind for me. I feel like he played.
Oh, maybe. I didn't.
Mika Richards.
Jack Butland. I think Jack
is this players?
Yeah, I think Jack Butland would have played for Team GB. But yeah, what an achievement for Poland, really. And it's strange that they only played 2 games in this period, even though it was not including these in a Olympic year.
Well, as we were just talking about the Olympics, I actually found a really interesting picture-led article on a website called The First News, all about Poland and their performance as a nation at the Olympics. So not just football. They achieved the greatest medal haul that they ever have at the Olympics, obviously including the gold for the football. And the pictures are amazing.
Yeah,
just these brutes and just proper men's men, and it showed they all lived together on a complex. I feel like that's kind of, I don't know whether they still do that, but I like that idea.
You get like Olympic villages now, don't you? And I don't think maybe it's just like the team living together, but maybe it's the whole, like you say, it's whole countries almost living together. I don't know if they're broken up that way.
There were some great pictures of like the Polish boxing athletes talking to the football team, and the article said that they were giving them tips.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that's accurate, and I don't know, but apparently the Poland team really, they obviously lifted gold, but it didn't even seem like it's a stretch. I mean, they scored 21 goals and conceded 5 goals in 7 games. Pretty good.
Yeah, very much.
It's not
so.
bad going, is it?
Well, it just shows you what we'll get onto it, but what a good Poland team and a crop of Poland players this was as well. I mean, they only played 2 official games as the Polish FA in '72. In '73, they played 12 friendlies, including a semi-tournament in North America.
What's a semi-tournament?
Basically, they've just got this strange kind of like, they play against USA, Mexico, and Canada, and they end up playing USA 4 times in this calendar year. I mean, what deal's been done there?
Yeah, that's the USA are Poland's Scotland.
Yeah, very much so. and you've got finishing it in August with a run against Bulgaria as well. So they go from USA and they actually travel to USA, Mexico, Canada. They go to Bulgaria. I mean, traveling back then must have been brutal on the players and the staff.
Yeah, but as I say, these are hard men.
Yeah.
So we've got the game coming up. We've got this is the second fixture.
The second fixture, yeah, in the qualifying campaign. It didn't start well for Poland. They lost 2-0 in Wales before they come and play England in June.
Yeah, so in the first game, there's something of note and not great for people who are listening, but something I've never seen before. So the reverse fixture to the one that we're covering, England are away, and they're wearing a yellow kit with blue shorts.
It's very odd, isn't it? It seems quite 70s because I feel like a lot of club sides wore this around. And I know Arsenal, Man United, maybe even Liverpool, and lots of clubs, their away strip was yellow. So I don't know if they took it from there or they just thought, well, it's Brazil-esque and maybe want to try and do it for that reason. But I think it looks quite smart, actually.
I really like it. I would love to see a modern take on the yellow and blue. Obviously, at the Euros just gone, we had quite a funky away kit that was kind of like a blue polo shirt, but
yeah, still got it in a minute, haven't they?
I think the world would be too shocked if England were to wear a yellow away jersey now.
Probably too similar to the white as well. Like you that's not much of a contrast, is it?
No, yeah, that's true. Obviously, we do a lot of digging. Is there much of note that happened in this first leg where England are in yellow and playing away?
Yeah. So in this group game, Poland take the lead through a tap-in from Godoka after a near-post free kick, which Bobby Moore misses. Poland then double their lead after a bad mistake by Moore, who dallies on the ball, and Lubanski runs from the halfway line pretty much to score and put Poland 2-0 up.
So not a great day at the office for Sir Bobby Moore.
No. I think this is his last competitive game for England as well.
Wow. I don't know how long he'd been in the side prior to 66, but he's got through to 73, and glory fades, I guess. Even the best, the time comes for them, and Bobby Moore will get to the teams, but he doesn't start in this Wembley leg.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can find some elite Bobby Moore games to see. I know we could just look at the World Cup
Yeah.
66, but I'd like to maybe venture a little bit outside of that. There's so many old players who their reputation precedes them really, and I guess covering Bobby Moore in the way we have so far, a loss against Scotland, and talking about him in a yellow kit,
talking him messing up in Poland.
Yeah, in his last game. There was a bit of a needle in that game as well, right? A bit of a feisty affair.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that are noteworthy. So it's Bobby Moore's final competitive game. It's Poland's first competitive win over England, and it's also Alan Ball becomes only the second player ever sent off for England for. Grabbing Tomaszewski by the throat and kneeing him in the groin after a player scuffle.
Yeah, I get it reminds me of Shaun of the Dead when I read that written it. So grabbing Tomaszewski by the throat and kneeing him in the groin. I'm getting, do you know the removing the head or destroying the brain?
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead. Alan Ball, second person to ever be sent off for England. Well, that's a stat, isn't it?
It definitely is. But Poland go on and they beat Wales 3-0 at home to put them top of the qualifying group, which is where we find them going into today's game. 7 days earlier to the one game we're covering, Poland drew 1-1 with the Netherlands, which included a team that would make it to the World Cup final in '74 with players like Nayskins and Cruyff in the side. And this Poland team are clearly no joke.
Yeah, so they're in the position of power heading into this. England have to well, not go there and do it, but they have to do it at Wembley.
Are you saying they've got to go there and get something?
Yeah, but they have to go to their own home, so it didn't really work. But oh well. So the game, England v Poland, Wembley Stadium, World Cup 74 qualifier, Wednesday, the 17th of October, 1973. Going into the game, Sir Alf Ramsey's under a lot of pressure. I mean, this is a man who led England to a World Cup, lest we forget. Yeah. How can he possibly be under any pressure?
England were just teetering on not qualifying for their first World Cup since 1950, which was their initial appearance. And I guess 70, I think they'd done well. I think they got to the quarters before bowing out.
As we've said as well, they didn't qualify for 72,
and that's a lot of pressure. And I guess this is another England team in transition we're covering today, because I know when I first looked through the lineup, I was just like, I don't know a lot of these players.
Yeah, we say pressure. Do we know? I kind of find it hard to imagine pressure after we've watched The Impossible Job and seen the hatchet job that the media can do on an England manager in the 90s. I'm kind of interested to see what pressure looks like in the early 70s for a man who's won the World Cup with England. But I guess it's just, Bobby Moore's on his way out, and people are always going to be passionate about football. It just feels like a modern thing to call for the manager's head. I'm not sure how strong the sentiment was, but
I think you give managers more time back then, didn't you? You look through 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's not as disposable as you see managers today, where it's just a couple of games. Like, well, he's got to go. Clearly, hasn't he? Like the smallest little thing. You haven't got that reactionary thing that's fed like social media these days either.
Yeah, even Gareth Southgate. People will still say, "Oh, he's a joke. He shouldn't be the manager." And obviously, I disagree with that strongly. But everyone has to have the say now these days.
Well, since the start of 2021, I think England have not won 3 games out of all the games they've played, and people are still saying he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, not one, including drawing 0-0 with Scotland and drawing with Italy. Obviously, we lost in full in penalties, but
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what's so silly about it. But you look back here, I mean, what must it have took to get to this point with Ramsey, where they're like, well, maybe he should go.
Yeah, so the build up to the game was quite interesting as well, and very notable actually. You've got Brian Clough, obviously, who we've spoken a lot about, ever present, always chiming in, just if he fancies it.
So opinionated, isn't he?
So opinionated. So he had something to say that really shapes the entire game that we're about to cover. He calls Jan Tomaszewski, the Poland goalkeeper, he calls him a circus clown in gloves. I don't think he'd made a fantastic start to his time at Poland, but that is a very, very strong thing to say about an international footballer.
And I couldn't quite find where he'd said this. I didn't know if it was just in a column he'd written, or in interviews, or even maybe in the build to the game. But it just seems a really strange thing for him to just kind of pick out of the air of, oh, he's a clown.
Yeah.
When would he have even watched him? It's not like today when you can stream games or anything like that.
It's just completely underestimating the opponent. And one thing I've kind of learned so far from our venture and our podcast is this thing. I think in our first episode we spoke about the perception of English arrogance from other teams, and I've kind of seen it in all the games
Yeah.
that we've covered. You know, not necessarily the Croatia game, the Southgate era, but the previous eras, and especially when there's a lot on the line against so-called weaker opposition.
Yeah.
There seems to be an attitude of this will be fine. We'll
Yeah.
overcome this. This is just a little hurdle. Then we'll get to the World Cup, and then it's go time.
I'm assuming even by the time that as we're like speaking sat here today, there's going to be pundits on TV just going, "Oh, what an easy group we've got: USA, Iran, all that kind of stuff." And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got to get that silliness that still comes. But I think back here, you do get people calling out because they just don't know what they're talking about, and there's no even evidence where you could say, "Well, actually, I have watched them." But you even get Peter Taylor, who's Brian Clough's assistant, saying that the Poland team are donkeys.
Yeah, who's asking them?
Yeah, why are they giving these opinions when, like, to me, like Peter Taylor seemed to be the calm version around Clough, who really, made everything right and went to the players and was the good cop. For him to be kind of say that in an interview just doesn't seem very him.
No, and the circus clown in gloves comment is there's an amazing article in the Guardian that covers Tomaszewski's career, including this game and post this game, and it's something that really did hang over him for his entire life, basically. You know, regardless of how he would perform in this game, a phrase like that just sticks.
Yeah,
People always go, "Ha, I remember when Clough said that about him. That was funny." And
Yeah.
you forget the wider context, but not today.
Yeah.
We're here to look at the wider context.
oh, definitely. Like you say, it totally frames the game, doesn't it? You can't move for like comments like that comment being brought up again and again, and it frames what we're talking about when in terms of, well, how good is he? What is he doing at this point?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a big challenge when it comes to the lineups because Nick's better than me at pronouncing these names. I think you've all established that so far in your own mind. I'm going to do England, Nick.
Okay.
Fancy it for a change?
As long as I get to do the bench for England, that's fine.
You can have the bench, that illustrious bench. Okay, top to bottom, England. Peter Shilton in goal, Paul Madeley at right back, Norman Hunter and Roy McFarland in the centre back positions, Emmeline Hughes at left back. Midfield, Martin Peters and Colin Bell. On the wings, Tony Curry and Alan Clark, with Mick Channon and Martin Chivers taking those sort of central attacking positions. Bench.
Yeah. And then on the bench, you've got Bobby Moore, you've got Kevin Hector, and you've got Kevin Keegan on the bench. I could not believe my luck when I saw that Keegan was on the bench. This seems like a totally different era for Keegan.
You may be a stranger.
Yeah,
For those who don't know, Kevin Keegan is the artist who sings our theme tune. He didn't do it specifically for this podcast, but we love a bit of Keggy.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I looked up his age. I mean, this seems like, like you say, a long time before his actual era. He's 21 or 22 here. That lineup is, I am talking, like, we started this podcast and you're more knowledgeable about football than me. I'll always say that, but it's kind of making me realize as we go through that there are massive gaps that I'm
definitely.
filling with just like passion and picking up on funny bits.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, I still don't know a lot of these England players.
This is just a team, and they all look exactly the same as well. They all look the same. I mean, I know Peter Shilton, I know Bobby Moore and Kevin Keegan on the bench. You know, Martin Peters, obviously, Colin Bell. But that is, I mean, some of them, it's just like they've gone to like a recruitment agency and gone, we need like 7 bodies. We got Poland at Wembley. Can you give us some bodies? Any notable, like, were any of these hot at the time? Were any of them kind of in banging form, doing notable stuff in the league?
I think that Kevin Hector around this time, who's on the bench for England, apparently he was quite a prolific striker at the time. But Tony Curry missed his second game for Tottenham as he was attending his own wedding, which I think was quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't get you a call up to the England squad, I don't know what will.
Surely you know when your wedding's going to be planned.
Yeah, but if he'd moved and he'd already had the wedding booked, and he's like, guys, look, I've got a pre-existing engagement.
But surely they're always playing on a Saturday. Just don't have any Saturdays in the season because I guess they didn't plan like these kind of things out as much then. But to be missing like brackets wedding, it seems really odd.
We got Martin Peters in the midfield, known as the Ghost for his ability to ghost in the area and score goals. Britain's first ever 200k player. He played all over the park for West Ham and scored in his 3rd game for them. And yeah, I mean that's a name. He's got a name that I'll recognise. There's Mick Channon up front. Went on to become a successful horse trainer. You put here, Nick.
Yeah, that's all I knew about Mick Channon going in.
Oh, they're going to be gold, this team. Right. Do you fancy the task of naming the Polish 11?
Yeah, I'll name the Poland team now. We start in goal with Tomaszewski, and then we have Szymanowski, Gorgon, Musiał, Bolzacki, Śmikiewicz, Kasperjak, Lato, Dana, Godoka, and Domaski. And just quickly, thank you to my good friend Magda, who sent me the proper pronunciations for all those, and I'm about to instantly forget them as we cover the game.
Well done to you, and thank you very much to Magda. I was very impressed then. I didn't know you'd sourced outside help.
I think it's only appropriate to give it an okay stab, but I was going to say you could do the Poland bench, but I don't think they've got one.
We couldn't find one. No. As we said a lot on this podcast as well, we're digging through the dirt to find these old games, and sometimes things will get missed. So we don't know the Polish bench for this game. I was getting into the pronunciations there. They're missing one of their big boys, though, aren't they, in this game? So they're coming in a little bit hindered despite being on top in the table. Yeah,
Lubanski, who'd scored in the 2-0 win in Poland, is missing, and he was one of their great strikers. Researching this Poland team, you come up with a lot of who's the best ever Polish 11, and I'd say there's probably 6 or 7 of them are in this team around this time, and Lubanski's one of them, and Tomaszewski's replacing him, and the captain Denia, he'd scored both goals in Poland's Olympic gold medal game as they beat Hungary too.
Well, he's a player of note as we get through the game. National anthems, no anthems this time.
No anthems, just hair and tashes.
So much hair and tashes. I was expecting them all to just go right 5 minutes in. Let's have a quick fag and a game of pool. Those beer jugs with the dimples in them.
Yeah.
Proper old school frothy tankards of ale.
They're just brilliant, aren't they? It's all so 70s. And in the first clip we get, there's a terrifying looking man. He looks like Gene Wilder's like evil twin almost.
I thought Roger Daltrey's evil twin.
Yeah, there's a bit of Daltrey in there as well, isn't it? He looks so scary.
So that's as soon as you click on their coverage on the YouTube thing, this guy is just staring at you. He looks shifty.
The thing is though, I don't even know who he is like the rest of the game. I don't think that ever comes up where it cuts to him on the pitch.
Maybe he was like a threat and he was
the goon.
Yeah, he was disposed of. They got rid of him because he looks shifty.
I think the commentator even says, "There he is, the big man," or something like that.
I mean, he's a shifty looking guy. England's guys are looking. It's not a fantastic kit selection. They've got white top with dark blue shorts, very tight fitting.
Yeah, it's very tight fitting and makes some of the England thick boys look a bit portly, doesn't it?
Thick.
And the Emlyn Hughes especially looks really uncomfortable. He looks like a Frankenstein made entirely of butchers.
And Poland, look, yeah, it's cool. It's classic. It's classic from Poland. All red. You like the typeface, don't you, in the back of the top? It's kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's quite modern.
Yeah, it's quite modern. It's quite arrowy almost in there, in my good describing words. But the Poland kit's quite slimming in turn as well. Maybe if England were wearing that, I mean, they may all still look like pigs, but I think that Poland look a lot better in that kit.
Right, so we're going to get into the game and colleagues as the actor.
Yeah, as he's so demonstrative, the commentator tells us.
It seems strange that a referee from this era would have a nickname and would be notable enough, you know?
Yeah, I love when people had nicknames back then in football. It just doesn't happen anymore, doesn't it? I think you get them in like Mexico and a couple of South American countries.
I don't know, mate. You're talking, you've got Caney, Sturley, Rashi, Greeley.
All the boys,
Picky, all the lads. We're good at nicknames.
I like them. Although we did get the ghost in this one from Martin Peters, but
the ghost and the actor.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen enough, does it?
That sounds like a good book.
The ghost and the actor.
You pick that up in Tesco, 3 for £10. Just like the pulp fiction aisle, where it's just like for middle-aged moms.
Which character is Kelsey Grammer playing in this?
He's both, actually. That's the key component of the feature.
You don't have Fraser and Niles, and they do like Frankenstein. They swap roles every night.
So it's a shame that we couldn't find the name of the commentator for this because he's a legend and he kicks things off in sublime fashion, not having a giddy clue. It's like me. If I were there, he doesn't have a clue with any of the names, does he, when they flash up? Well,
I think just before that, he makes me feel really easy, and we're not even a minute in here. So He mentions the referees previously refereed England from the Mexico 70 World Cup, and he says that a lot of the Romanian tackles were a bit too hard and things like that. He said, this will not be a game tonight that a weak referee should be in charge of. Not to say that Vitor Rowe is a weak referee, a good referee. Like
Covering himself. I've just been told that I shouldn't say that. He's got Vince McMahon in his ear. He's a good referee, pal.
The commentator also puts his foot in it, as you say, by saying about the lineups coming onto the screen.
Yeah.
The Polish team, a lot of strange-looking names there, which I'm sure are going to give me some problems from time to time, but at least Lato is an easy name to say, an easy player to watch, number 7. He with number 11, Godoka, the two front runners, the men that our panel have already predicted could give this England side some trouble. Dania, of course, the captain, number 9, a tremendously skillful player. Tomaszewski, the goalkeeper, they say is 6'4" tall. He's going to be caught with the aerial battle tonight. Their pressure is going to come on him. And Jerzy Gorgon, the big number 3, this man who's something of a walking telegraph pole, 6'2.5" tall. He's the strong man in the middle, in the heart of this Polish defense.
A lot of strange-looking names, which I'm sure are going to give me some problems from time to time. At least Lato is an easy name to say and an easy player to watch. He's always got that. He'll back himself into a corner.
Yeah.
But then he'll just move his way out of it. It's lovely. It's lovely.
The thing is, though, when he says that, it's like he's just been shown some hieroglyphics or something, isn't it? Like he's never seen these like letters put together or these shapes before. It's like, well, look at that. I haven't got the foggiest, and I'm sure you don't either. So there you go.
There's God, how am I going to say what I want to say here? But there's a lot of underlying themes I get from this game.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say it. I feel like one of them is a bit of homoeroticism.
Right. Okay.
There's a lot of talk of big, strong. Oh,
Yeah.
he's a strong, big man, and he describes Jerzy Gorgon as a telegraph pole at the heart of it all for Poland. A big, strong man.
Is it because I mentioned thick boys earlier?
Yeah,
England's
there's thick boys, there's big, strong men, there's hard blokes, and it is just. We'll get into it. That I feel like there's almost a curse on this game.
Yeah, definitely. I must say I do love the commentator. Like he just seems like such a nervous wreck inside, because, and he's just saying odd things all the while. The confusing part is he says some of the names. Like he's clearly said, "Oh, I'm going to struggle with these names," and then it seems like he kind of says them without any problems. I mean, this is before I got the how you say these names properly. I don't think it's a million miles away from what he actually does say, but it's just like he just puts something on it already.
Poland, we've seen the English guys warming up. 11 men who look exactly the same, sideburns. They all look like they're playing darts at the pub. Poland are a bit more of a they still look very 70s. They're a bit more ragtag, and to me, they look tricky. Yeah. England are kind of geeing themselves up individually. Poland are like having little whispers in each other's ears. They go, don't forget,
Don't forget that big bloke they've just taken off. They could bring him on at any point, that terrifying Gene Wilder.
Big, strong man. Yeah. And the kickoff, the whistle is blown and the noise is deafening. Wembley is pumping.
It's so good, isn't it? It's like being at like a UFC fight or something, or like a big boxing match.
The more games we watch, the more old Wembley, man. Something about it.
I think there's something about it. From the people that kind of used to go, he kind of said to me, actually, it wasn't all it cracked up to be, because it was a horrible location. The facilities were always awful. It just seemed like a place for a lot of violence. But when we see some of these or hear some of these audiences, I think we should put a little clip in here actually for how the start of this game just really adds to it.
The preliminaries are over. Now the crowd rises. And this tremendously important game is underway. Poland kicking off. Pre-match tactics have been said to be that Poland will hope.
Yeah, and I guess the first thing of note for me was a foul from Szymanowski on Clark. Clark goes down like a ballerina, and the crowd go wild. Everyone, there's a lot at stake. I know England, English football people have underestimated Poland, but in that moment when a game kicks off and you're in the stadium, you never think it's going to be easy. I don't think you're always confident that your team will win, but you never just like right then. You miss, you never miss the whistle blowing there because you're
Yeah.
like, right, I have to focus. Now is the time to focus.
It's something I always quite find in football fans is every single club would say, "Oh, we don't do it the easy way, do we?" And I hate that phrase because, all right, then show me a team that do it the easy way. You are talking about like
Man City,
maybe, but again, like
they balls it up for themselves, and yeah.
But you'd say Man City, a lot of their history is they were thinking, oh, that's very City. That's what their own fans would used to say about them. I know it's a different era and basically a different club these days, but you still kind of see, like, again, no fan could say, yeah, we do it the easy way. We're just always chilling along and being all right.
So relaxing, sporting, insert team name here.
Yeah.
Tell you what's not relaxing. Watching this game, it feels cursed. And there's a moment at the start of the game, the first bit of real action involving Tomaszewski, the goalkeeper, who we're going to mention countless times. Oh God, I've just thought about how much we're going to speak about him. This man. Nick, can you explain the early drama involving this keeper?
Yeah. So Martin Peters takes a quick free kick into the area as Tomaszewski easily catches the ball. Tomaszewski, looks to get the game moving, drops the ball just to kick it out. But he doesn't see Alan Clark. He's just a couple of feet away from him. Clark obviously goes for the ball. Tomaszewski manages to smother it in time, but in the process of kicking the ball, Clark breaks Tomaszewski's left hand.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. So there's a bone in Tomaszewski's hand that is broken. I think it's his left hand. I think in the image that I've put into our notes, you can just about see like the toe of Clark on top of Tomaszewski's hand.
So he basically just rolls it out as though you're going to roll it out so you can kick it, but he rolls it like 6 yards out to an English striker.
He's literally, I think,
and he just has to leap. He has to leap. I didn't know he broke his because from there he goes down. He's calling for attention, isn't he? Tomaszewski is injured. Clearly something's wrong. But I think the English fans are a bit like, oh, get up.
Well, Tomaszewski at first, he actually he gets back up, and it looks like he's about to just throw it out of play to get a bit of attention. But he throws it to the left back, as in like, get up the pitch, and I'll sort myself out. And
I'll fix my broken hand.
Yeah,
Jack Charlton on the side going, do you need a hand? I've been there, mate. It was my leg, but a body's a body at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I think the play ends up stopping in the end because I think the ball starts coming back and one of the players puts it out, or it ends up just going out. But yeah, to just not even go, I'm going to need a bit of attention here. This is how hard these men are.
Well, yeah, the commentator's loving it. He's loving all the hard men. There's a couple of again funny reactions to that from the commentator. So obviously Tomaszewski wants the game to stop. He's realised, okay, I've tried to throw it out, but I am in absolute agony here. He goes, Tomaszewski wants some treatment for his injured hand, but the ref says, no, play on. Bit harsh.
Very harsh.
I mean, for a keeper, hands are pretty much essential.
I'd say they're in the top 3 things you need.
Yeah,
being a goalkeeper.
And then the commentator is so befuddled with everything going. He says there's a lot of tenseness on the Polish players' faces. I don't think that's a word. I would say tension, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, tenseness just sounds like they're just gritting their teeth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, because I don't think they've got anybody on the bench. So what's going to happen?
I didn't even think of that as well. God, this game is like there's so many layers.
I know.
England, they're playing some nice stuff early on. They nearly got gifted a goal, but they're looking like they want to try and make a goal for themselves. They're not really here to just be gifted goals. They've got enough talent. They seem to think that they're aggressive, they're forceful. I don't think Poland come into England's half for the first 7 or so minutes.
I don't think so. Yeah, and England are swarming Poland early on, and Tony Curry is a shot well over, but Curry's hair is so long, he looks like he should be in the Kings of Leon. I didn't really get a look at him before kickoff.
Is this his first album era, Kings of Leon?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. What a look! What a band! What a band at that time. A little bit of as I say, the Polish guys, the Polish team struck me as being a little bit shifty, a little bit. There's another game here in my mind. I was watching it thinking, there's another game that's being played. England and Poland are on the surface of it playing a football match, but really the football match is a distraction tactic for Poland to do some business and win it that way. Early on, I found it quite shocking to see what they did early on. About 8 minutes in, you've got Peter Shilton ready to take a goal. Not a goal kick, sorry, but he's got the ball in his hands, looking to play it out, and Leto is just standing in front of him. The crowd boo, and I'm like, that is quite. It's just. It would not happen. No.
Early on, it's a bit of an odd thing to do, I guess. But again, it just doesn't seem there's many rules at this time either, does there?
No, and 10 minutes in, England get a corner. Do you think corners might be a tactic for England in this game?
Have to wait and see, won't you? I think they, it comes up a bit.
The commentator's very smug. He's right now. Let's see what Tomaszewski does. The ball doesn't reach him. It doesn't matter. But the commentator and everyone is focused on Tomaszewski as Poland's goalkeeper, and he hasn't helped himself, has he? Really, with that early blunder. But we get a massive advance through time and space to get an instant replay.
Yeah, they suddenly become a thing at this point. There's a chance for
I mean, just to say, sorry, surely the bit where the goalkeeper just rolled the ball to our player, then broke his hand, was worth an instant replay.
Noteworthy.
Yeah, apparently not.
You'd say noteworthy. But Martin Peters has a chance, which isn't, I don't think, very noteworthy. And the commentator talks you through the replay. Obviously from the same angle, as there's only one wide-angled hard camera on the pitch. The commentator then has to tell the audience it's a replay. They must have, used all of the text on all the Poland names and all that, mustn't they, for this?
Yeah, it's funny whenever there is a replay after this, and then it cuts back to normal and goes, and we're back live in the game now. Just stuff we take for granted, but at the time, imagine how amazing an instant replay would have been.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but it's the exact same shot you've just seen, and he doesn't really address it as a replay at first. It's like, oh, now we're back from the replay, and they kind of, it feels like the production team has only just woken up at this point, doesn't it?
Yeah, we get another instant replay quite soon after from a cross come shot, as they'd call it. Mick Channon goes down the left. His cross actually grazes the bar.
Yeah,
it's a cross that nearly goes in. And again, Tomaszewski, he's such a reactive goalkeeper, isn't he? He's never like in the right position for anything. He makes it hard for himself.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, this time in particular, it goes over, it hits the bar kind of. So he had it covered technically anyway. But this time when it shows the replay again, the camera's gone dark, so the darkness has gone down, and there's like a little bit of light, or maybe where the action is, or maybe where something where the lens is, and you actually do see an R in the bottom left-hand corner. So everyone's like, right, replay, calm down, everybody, bit different.
That is mind-boggling. And another little bit of Poland trickery, a couple of back passes quite early on as well. Still, every time I see a back pass, I'm just
never get used to it.
Never get used to that. There's Poland nearly break. How to describe this one then? So Poland nearly break around 10 minutes in. Denia plays a deep ball from in his own half over to Leto, and we hear as Leto and McFarland are in this race that Leto can do 100 meters in 10.8 seconds. He can really tank along, in the words of the commentator. So it's just a sprint to catch this ball that's breaking through. It kind of muscles him off.
Yeah, and McFarland kind of pushes him off, and it's a free kick to Poland. It's about 35 yards out, and Denia is over the ball. He passes it sideways to Gorgon, who's the centre half, who accidentally prods the ball with his standing foot and miskicks it entirely. In his defence, the referee is in his eye line, but it is very funny.
Well, you did say miskick.
Yeah.
It's not a miskick as such. He actually misses his kick.
Yeah, well, it's because he's prodded it with his standing foot. Basically, he's so determined to smash this ball. He hits it with his standing foot, and by the time his other foot gets there, it's just already long gone.
I mean, again, another clumsy, weird, doesn't like. These are the kind of things where two moments in this game would make those football's funniest moments TV shows there, and we're about 10 minutes in. The England get another corner just before the 15-minute mark, and again the commentator, let's see what Tomaszewski is going to do now. I mean, the pressure on this guy. I can't imagine if we played a game now that we go in on an opposition player like that.
I don't think so. At the minute, you seem that they go into, England fans seem to go into their own players a lot more harsh these days, don't they?
Yeah, it's not a great corner again. No. A very bad one, actually, according to the commentator. It was not a great corner, is an understatement. It was a corner that was played outside the box.
Yeah.
Never once went in the box. Just basically almost went out for a throw in if it wasn't for the fact that there was a Polish player there to pick it up.
Yeah, around this time as well, the commentator saying that Poland are already time wasting, which I think this is really harsh. And he also says that there's been a second involuntary professional foul by England. It's like he means a foul on purpose.
How'd you do an involuntary foul?
No, yeah. Like an involuntary burp, like they just couldn't help it.
It's harsh. You've said it's harsh, but I've got my suspicions about Poland.
Yeah, you've still got this this weirdness about it, but we also get flashes up on screen. We've got more graphics now.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Tomorrow's world.
I loved this. So we're at the 15-minute mark, and the production department let us know about it because they've got England, Poland 0-0, bang in the middle of your screen, and in the top right corner, pretty much taking up a quarter of the screen itself, is like an egg timer.
Sweet fuzzy nostalgia. I am here for that clock. I think it looks fantastic.
It does, doesn't it?
Well done, the BBC. I'm presuming it was the BBC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're 15 minutes in according to the egg timer.
Is that what we're for?
Thoughts at this point? I mean, we've got a star of the show already in mind. Is anyone else kind of shining out?
Dana, I think it looks quite good. He seems the only player in consistent form. All the England players, the team that they've got going for them, but they're playing all right, but they're just running around in a very odd fashion, like they're slumped over. It's like they've got a football zorb around them.
Yeah, I think it's all the fags and booze.
Yeah, well, yeah, clearly, isn't it?
They're working hard, but there's not really a standout performance. But before we know it, there's a bit of a standout moment in the game, a bit of a scramble. Nick, can you run us through this, please?
Yeah. Bulzatski is booked as Channon runs towards the goal and is hacked down. And then a free kick is very central, about 25 yards out. Peters lifts it up to the far post from McFarland, who slides to get it back across goal. Mushau somehow keeps it out of the path of Channon from about 2 yards, and it's cleared away. Channon actually celebrates as if it's gone in, and I don't even think he's even touched it, but the commentator seems to think it's hit the post, but it's so hard to see from the angle.
Yeah, the slide in from McFarland reminds me of Harry Kane versus Croatia in 2018, a game we've recently covered. I'm sorry, I'm looking at our notes here. Please, can you? Okay, I know where we are now. So you snuck that one in, didn't you? England get another corner, probably about the fifth one so far. Another shit one, by the way. But what we're laughing at is I made a note because there's either side of the goal. There's a row of about 40 press photographers all sat there, obviously getting
either side of the goal as well.
Either side of the goal, so 40 on each side, so like about 80 in total. I made the notes that every single one of them looks like Jim from Friday Night Dinner, and Nick's put a picture of Jim from Friday Night Dinner in the notes with like a bit of cheese on his head or something like.
It's his yarmulke.
Oh, it's his yarmulke. Oh, that's made my night, that has. Oh, that's so funny. England get another corner. Can it be any better?
I think you're gonna have to just maybe clip that and just repeat it of how many times now. Spoiler: England get corners in this game. It's a bit strange, isn't it?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a good header from McFarland. And guess what happens after that?
Keeper misses it.
Another corner.
Another corner.
Keeper misses it. It's Bell this time, and the keeper punches it out in wacky fashion.
Yeah, I think at this point Poland are starting to come into the game a little bit more now. They're showing their skill on the ball. Don't quite seem to know what to do with it. Like it seems like they've got all the tools, but maybe the occasions got to them because they've got a history of winning big games really in recent memory, but. First,
England at Wembley is something else, isn't it?
Well, I think at this as well, where they played at in the Olympics and all this kind of stuff, but in a big pressure game like this, in these little pockets, you can see that they're a really good team, but they maybe just don't know what to do with it.
I just want to. This was a note that I made later on. Something I only noticed later in the game, but it stands to reason that it would have been happening at this time with all the corners. The Tomaszewski approach to defending a corner is insane.
Yeah,
it is insane. I have never seen anything like it. So he's the goalkeeper, and what he essentially does is he takes the position of a centre back. He's there in the mix, but he's quite smart in a way because he's like, I can just use my hands. I'll pick it up off the striker's head.
Yeah.
But to replace that, you have to have all your defenders on the goal line. So he's just wandering around above like a sea of defenders on the goal line, and he's absolutely mad.
He's like the anti-David De Gea, isn't he? He just does not want to be on his line, this bloke. I think he's just so box office, isn't he?
Yeah.
You do get at this point, Casper Jack goes into a really bad tackle on Bell, who requires, a bit of a ticking off from the referee. You can see from our notes here, he's off his feet. It's like he's on a bouncy castle, just going down. And you think he's going to be, but the actor says no.
The actor says no. That's another good name for the book as well, the sequel.
Yeah.
So just before the 30-minute mark, Poland actually, I know we've talked a lot about the goalkeeper and England attacking and having infinite corners, but Poland feel like they're growing in confidence, and I started to get the feeling England may have already given it everything that they've got. The commentator even notes around this time, so late 20s in terms of the minutes, Poland are starting to put more men forward. They've been almost tactically, very high numbers in defence, and now they're just, okay, we've weathered a bit of a storm. Let's push forward. It's probably not the last storm they're going to face. A quick note for Denya. Is it Denya or Dana?
Dana, I think it is.
So I'm mixed between the two then. He wears the number 9. He's marauding. He reminded me of a cross between Xavi and Iniesta. And I'm not saying he's of the level of those players, but he keeps the ball moving all the time, so he keeps the team ticking along. But he's also making those cut throughs and those chances like Iniesta would.
His passing range is outstanding in this game, and again, doing a little bit of research into him, he seems like he's one of Poland's great players and their playmaker. And I think out of the Poland players, him and Lato really impressed me.
Well, yeah, he's got a lot of hard workers around him, and the pace of Lato, as you say, who can run 100 meters in 10.8 seconds. That's and can really tank. 30 minutes in, Tony Curry goes down from a pretty darn solid tackle from Gorgon. We see the return of Howard Shepherdson.
Yes.
Of Jack Charlton broken foot fame.
He's still hanging around. I thought he retired after trying to carry Jack Charlton off the pitch that day.
That's loyalty from Sir Alf Ramsey. I forgot his name for a moment there. That tackle gets a slow-mo replay.
Oh, yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Again, they just experimented at this point, aren't they? Because this is that sweet spot now between the game we saw. There's no replays. It was black and white. Just do what you want to in a 67 game. And now technology is just coming in a little bit more, isn't it?
Yeah. England, they're getting back on the ball. But again, as you've said earlier, they're running as though they're in a football zorb.
Yeah, they're kind of slouched over, making half chances about troubling. Tomaszewski at times is kind of troubling himself. But in reality, I don't think he's had to make any good saves yet.
Yeah, we see our lovely nostalgic fuzzy timer again to tell us there's 32 and a half minutes gone. Love that. So precise.
Yeah, there's a chance for England. A corner leads to a bit of pinball in the Poland area. McFarlane heads down. It's scrambled to Curry, who shoots and finds the head of Channon 6 yards out, and he just blazes it over the bar with his head. It's a bit of a difficult chance, but you want him to be do. It's one of those where you think, oh, another day that easily goes in.
Yeah, they look like they had it covered. My observation at this time in the game is like it's not a cultured game, is it? We're not watching Barcelona versus Man City, or we're not watching Brazil versus Germany. We're watching England versus Poland, and it just feels like one team is trying harder to force that ball to bobble into the net than the other side is trying. It doesn't seem like a really epic skill is going to be the difference between the two teams here. It's going to be like a dodgy, scuffly goal or something.
I think maybe just because England are dominating it's not through great play by themselves. It's almost forcing the issue, which is I think what happens a lot of the time. I think England kind of bypass their whole midfield for this game, and it's just more. It's on the wings. It's into the area. It's just a lot of blood and thunder. I mean, we get a chance from that as well, which comes.
Just before. Sorry, it wasn't long before. It wasn't long ago that we were saying Poland has started to grow a little bit more in confidence and push men forward. My God, are they regretting that? Because England are right back on it. As soon as Poland put those men forward, as you say, there's a great chance for England. What the commentator would call the most exciting goal-mouth activity I've seen in a long time. What happens, Nick?
It's so early to be saying that, isn't it, in this game from him? Channon crosses the ball on the right. It's headed back to Chivers, who has a shot blocked by Gorgon. Ball comes to Bell on the edge of the area, and Tomaszewski produces a great save down to the bottom. It's bottom right. I mean, you look at the still we've got. Ball is celebrating pretty much as the ball's heading to the bottom corner.
A great save.
Yeah, brilliant save.
No funny business, no dodgy, no wacky stuff. It's just a really good save by the keeper. Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's growing in confidence. The commentator is he's loving this. He's like, I'm so glad they picked me for this game. He's loving it.
He's really bigging up the Polish defence as well, calling them, say, brave red walls, as England pressure is just relentless. Gorgon seems to have just gotten in front of pretty much everything that England have thrown at him.
Yeah, gets called the Big Red Wall.
Enjoyable, isn't it?
There's a big handball shout just after this as well.
Yeah, there's a big handball shout from the crowd, but the referee doesn't give it. So Channon looks to direct the ball towards the goal, and Kasperjak sticks out his arm over his shoulder, and the ball bounces away. You've barely got time to breathe before England bring the ball back forward again, winning a free kick just outside the left of the Poland area, and what looks like a tug on the shirt. To me, the referee's given that because he's a bit unsure about what's happened in the area, and you clearly don't have things like VAR now, and it happens so quickly. He just thinks, right, stop the game, just everyone calm down.
Yeah, and England haven't been great from set pieces, and it's not a great set piece, but it looks like it's going to come to nothing, but it's ends up being looped back in. So the original free kick, not great, looped back into the box into Clark, who has a header saved by Tomaszewski. The commentary here was hilarious. So you'd imagine when you'd say a player's name, you'd go Kane, or in this instance Clark, or header from Clark. But the commentator on this occasion goes, Clark's all right.
Is that like just checking on him almost like he's down or something?
England get their 11th corner of the half after that save.
I mean, what are we, what was the egg timer say? Just over 32 minutes, I think we're in? We're in like 35 now.
Probably about 35,
that's 11 corners. I mean, you'd be good for like betting scandals these days for this, wouldn't you? It's just crazy.
Maybe that's the big scam that I'm looking for.
Well, there's something at this point as well. It's a deep corner, and Tomaszewski thinks he can deal with it, but it goes over his head, and he runs after it, ending up on the floor, close to the edge of the area, then on his goal line, and he's got 8 Poland players behind him from outfield, and you just think, what is he doing? I mean, he gets it away somehow with his feet.
It genuinely looked like rugby. No, not an exaggeration, and it was like rugby. It looked like I was watching a rugby game. You know, when they go in for the scrum and you get that man turns over and then he has to pass. Oh my God, this guy! I can't place a finger on him. He's pulling off amazing saves 1 minute. He's defending corners like I've never seen. To be fair, there's been 11 and there's been no trouble, but that was dicey.
Well, I mean, this part here, it feels like we're ramping up. This is relentless from England. So Tomaszewski doesn't learn and does the exact same thing from the 12th corner as well. I mean, just an entertainer at this point.
So we think we're comfortable and we're heading towards half-time after that, really. There's not much time left on the clock, but England still actually nearly score once more, Nick.
Yeah. So, again, it's almost a goal for England. Channon heads a looping cross towards Tomaszewski's goal, but he tips over, and we're treated into the top right of the corners of that little black and white striped box. It just starts flashing up when the adverts are coming. So we know we don't need the egg timer. We've got that little boy.
That's Coronation Street.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, isn't it?
So we do actually get to half-time, and it's 0-0. Nick, let's. We usually have a quick chat and then get into the second half, and we're not going to have a long one now, but let's have a breather and think.
Yeah. Everyone it easy.
Calm down.
I think it's quite hard to kind of say the tension that is in this game is crazy. And in the last 10 minutes, how Poland have escaped and are still, in parity is amazing, really. Some great and confusing goalkeeping from Tomaszewski, as well as Gorgon, being the one-man mountain, but 14 first-half corners.
14 first-half corners against a keeper who can't deal with... I'll just be honest, he's got a lot of merit, but he can't deal with corners.
So do you think, well, we kind of, similar to this here, during the TV coverage at half-time, Brian Clough is sticking to his guns, telling everyone watching, keep calm, put the kettle on, mother, don't worry, the goals, they're going to come.
Do I agree with that?
Yeah. So
there's no way I'm watching this and I'm thinking England... Because Poland have done nothing other than that one break with the... what's the guy, the sprinter guy who...
Later.
Yeah, and that wasn't really a break. It was 35 yards out and he got fouled. They haven't done nothing. I mean, I would be concerned that England might not score, but I can't see them losing. I can see them qualifying for the World Cup.
Would you say on the first half evidence that Clough is fair to call Tomaszewski a clown?
Yes.
You'd say at this point, yes.
Just because it's so unorthodox. I mean, very clownish to drop the ball at a player's feet, 6 yards from the goal. The corner thing baffles me. He's played rugby. He's produced 3 or 4 really good saves. Though.
I think that one for Ball is quite incredible, really. How he and again, Ball is celebrating because he thinks that it's going into the bottom corner already.
It's goalkeepers are a rare breed, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's a special kind of person to be a goalkeeper. That's what they say, and there's goalkeepers unions and things like that, and there seems a bit of a difference, but you kind of get what they mean when you see someone like a Tomaszewski who's just so unorthodox in what he does in every way. I mean, again, this is before like sweeper keepers and everything like that. He is just constantly off his line.
Yeah, well, we can go into the second half. Everything is still up for grabs.
Yeah.
And maybe Tomaszewski will come out and grab it or punch it as he prefers to. But anyway.
Well, at the start of this half, he doesn't even start kicking the ball because Gorgon, for some reason, is taking his goal kicks for him.
Yeah.
And he does it for the rest of the half. I just think, well, you've not hurt your foot. You broke your finger. Absolutely fine. Get that. But your foot, that seems to be okay.
Mind games.
Wow, yeah, it's something. Maybe Gorgon's just like, I don't even trust you to do this. I'm going to do this for you now.
It's a slow start to the second half. I noted about 55 minutes in that we get treated to a unique chorus of "All we are saying, give us a goal" from the crowd. I was like, that's really weird.
It's quite a musical crowd as well. I think we'll come on a little bit later to what they're actually singing. But yeah, there's a couple of songs that pop up here too.
Yeah, we get a bit. The actor gets himself back in the shot. There's a foul, 25 yards out centrally, and the actor is very flamboyant here. It's a foul for England from a Polish tackle, right?
Yeah.
We're approaching their half.
Yeah, I think when you get to there, I think Gorgon loses the ball because he's just closed down really quickly. The England players steal it off them and go forward, and it's as you'd say, like a professional foul at that point.
There was a bit of crazy Polish play leading up to that. So yeah, Gorgon got the ball, as you say. Why would he run towards his own goal? And then he's like, oh God, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and then they have to make up and they eventually do the fail.
I think it comes to Curry at that point. And he kind of slices it over, doesn't he? And I think Curry's played quite well from what I've seen in the game hit so far. But loses his footing as he goes to strike the ball. There's another cross, comes to nothing for England. Tomaszewski actually this time catches it, but he's caught by Clark, who's running in, and he just kind of hits him with his hip. Yeah, he goes fast, and he kind of he's calling for a bit of attention and things like that as well.
It's a quiet start to the half, but finally, a goal comes.
Curry, faced by Kasperczak. Kasperczak got enough. Lato screaming down the right side. Left side rather. Now it's Lato against McFarlane and the Duckers over there. The shot is on for Tomaszewski. Oh, he scored! Tomaszewski's got a goal! 1-0 Poland. The tragedy that England might have expected. The Poles going mad around the scorer Tomaszewski. Here it is again. Lato doing the breakout as they caught England all the way forward. And Tomaszewski coming in now. The challenge of Hughes not quite enough. And it's in the back of the net.
Well done, Poland.
Yeah, the goal comes and it's 1-0 to Poland. Tomaszewski with the goal.
Nice goal. Well done, Poland.
Yeah, Poland score their first chance of the game. Kasperczak wins the ball on the left back position, plays it forward to Lato. Hunter tries some odd sidestep kind of over the ball and ends up just standing on it. Tackled by Lato. Suddenly, England are in major trouble because Godok is running through the middle of the pitch, where both England defenders are trying to follow him, but arrowing up right behind him, it's Tomaszewski. And
great finish.
Yeah,
you can't knock that as a goal.
Well, there was a little bit more to that as well, because when Tomaszewski is found, he hits his shot and it's kind of through Peter Shilton's hands a bit. I think in what I've seen of this game since, they say, oh, it's a Shilton error, and it is a Shilton error. However, it's a good finish because he's put it somewhere that is very high. If you're going to put it anywhere on the body of a goalkeeper, you kind of put it there, low down to the left by your foot, because again, keepers weren't as good with their feet back then as well.
Where you've got to contort your body in a completely unnatural way to even reach it. I mean, just prior to this goal and this break, England were doing some crazy stuff. It was just they were just heading, lobbing, like amongst themselves, like in a threatening position and just doing nothing with it, and it was just the ball was just bouncing through the air, and I said to myself, God, England are awful. And then a minute later, Poland 1-0. I mean, backs to the wall now. This is a proper job.
I know, yeah. And England, whenever they've got the ball, they're, like you say, they're struggling with it quite a lot as well. But Poland weren't hurting England until this point. You know, Tomaszewski is involved and he's keeping England at bay here as well. But you look at Peter Shilton, and I think it's an error from Shilton. I think that all the players have said since, oh yeah, Schultz, it was his error. But he plays from England from here until 1990.
Wow.
That is an amazing England career, really. And the amount of caps he got, I think he's still England's outright caps ever. And that's in the era of loads of internationals every single year and players getting all sorts of different opportunities to come on in friendlies and things like that. But
yeah, well, the commentator calls it the tragedy that England might have expected. They are 1-0 down. They nearly won one.
Yeah.
Instantly, they're straight up the other end. The score, it's a disallowed goal, though.
Yeah, disallowed. It's Chivers with a long throw into Clark, who controls it seemingly with his hand, finds Channon on the edge of the area, and he slots it into the bottom corner. But yeah, the referee blows up. I think it's for handball.
Yeah, the commentator says there isn't much wrong with it, but there only needs to be one thing wrong with it, doesn't it? Does it touch his hand?
Yeah, the most patriotic man in England is not very happy with that, is he? He also said there's more pressure on England here than there's ever been at Wembley. I think that's a big statement, but it's probably true.
Yeah. He also notes that the "Come on England" that chant is now a plaintive cry rather than a chant.
It's lovely, that, isn't it?
That is, oh God, that is beautiful.
How many corners are we on now?
England get their 18th corner to Poland's none. But there is only one stat that counts, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's funny. That reminds me of FIFA career mode.
Okay.
The 18. There's some games you have on FIFA career mode where it's just, yeah. You can try all day and all night, and you know you're never going to score, and you get corner after corner after corner, and you just know after about 60 minutes, I'm losing 1-0 here. But well, real football isn't FIFA, and we've still got a long time to play.
There's a bit of real football here, and this is just a little pocket here of what Poland are capable of with some of their players. So Muszał finds himself in a tight situation, a left back, as he's closed down by a couple of players, and he just kind of takes the ball past them. It's like, all right, well, I'll go past you. I'll turn inside. I'll go past you as well. Yeah. It's a lovely bit of play when you just go, where's that been?
It's one of them where I watched it and I was like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was nice.
But now you feel like Poland, right, can they just slow it down a little bit, do little things like that, take the edge out of the game and keep England at bay, they'd be hoping.
Well, if I were Poland, what I would do is just keep kicking it out for a corner.
Yeah.
For 90 minutes, because England get corner number 19. I mean, we've said before, this isn't this maths, but we're averaging, I mean, we're an hour in, we're averaging a corner to England every 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you've got a good set piece tactic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's taking the corners for England, but it just doesn't seem to be working.
They all seem to be having a go. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think there's one dedicated set piece taker.
I think because, as you said, they all look quite similar. It's quite hard to go, okay, well, I can't see the number on that man's shirt, so I guess this is him. But yeah. We've got less than 30 minutes to go, and England need 2 goals, and they get the chance to score 1 from the penalty spot.
Yeah, I'd say it was a little bit soft, this, but
yeah, I think
we've got a penalty.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, what's happened? How we got to here?
I mean, a really loose ball. It's a really loose pass from Tomaszewski, who sees Channon with only Gorgon in front of him, and it's swiftly hacked down. Chivers takes it quickly to Peters, who's barged over by Muszał. Seems really soft to me.
Yeah, it was obviously the tackle before was a foul, but it's the quick free kick take. It didn't even look like it was. It didn't even look like it was in the box. He kind of just. I think he nudges him. It's a bit more than a nudge.
Yeah, it's an excessive nudge.
It's an excessive, a strong nudge that looked to be kind of just outside the area. But hey, England have got a penalty.
Tomaszewski way back for Muszał. Tomaszewski. That's a loose one. Shannon is in. Against Gorgon. Peters quickly in against Muszał. He has. It's a penalty.
Is this the first penalty we've had on the podcast? It must be. I don't think we've seen another one.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you know that you're right as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, it's a big moment really at this point.
I love the shot so Clark's preparing to take, and you see Peter Shilton doing the old classic goalkeeper down on both knees, sort of squatting, looking away.
Yeah.
He can't even look, but it's a really nice shot. Like, Literally, I don't know if they used a better camera or something like that, but I just remember seeing it thinking, that's very pretty.
I think you'll know. It must be Jim from Friday Night Dinner who's taken that photo.
Oh,
behind
don't,
him,
mate.
to me.
Christ.
Now the pressure's on Alan Clark. In 9 goals for England, he scored 3 penalties. This, one of the most vital ones of his career. Alan Clark. The eyes of over 100,000 people here at Wembley on him and the goalkeeper he hopes to beat, Tomaszewski. Shilton can't even look at all, though. Clark, he's got it! 1-1. And England are back in the game.
It's in,
Goal.
and it's game on, and it's 1-1.
It's Clark. Nice side-footed strike into the bottom left corner for the keeper. Sends him the wrong way. Game on.
Slow-mo replay, baby.
I enjoyed that slow-mo. Again, anything they can add to this is so lovely.
Yeah, the commentator, he's a bit of a nervous wreck, but he's so beautiful and he's so poetic with his language. What's he say? Well, it's the peril we spoke about earlier, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the peril. This is the torment.
Peril. Torment.
And then straight away, again, you just do not get to breathe from this point onwards. England nearly take the lead. Curry has given that right wing a right good going through tonight with Casper Jack on that side. He can barely keep his feet. Curry fires it in across and nearly goes in again, nearly hits the bar again.
Yeah, we've already had one of those. Tomaszewski again, just leaping round like a cat. You know, I know keepers are often called the cat. I think it's a Roy at the Rovers thing. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I'm not sure this is what they mean. This is not the quick reactions and intelligence of a cat. This is your cat when it's like running into a wall and being dead clumsy. And you're like, what are you like? Because it's just so unorthodox. Like, unorthodox isn't bad. Jordan Pickford is unorthodox.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy how much that this guy is like not playing by the rules yet. He's only conceded a penalty.
Yeah. He's done well so far. I mean, again, to get to the point of how tense this game is, everything is an event. For most of the game, England seem to have like 4 players up front, totally bypass the midfield. There's always a wide player running at a Poland player, laying it off to another forward, and it's just so all over the place.
England need the fans on side now. They need the team to be united as one. So the crowd kick off a rendition of "You'll Never Walk Alone."
Yeah, I didn't know that was like a thing where England fans would sing that. I know it's quite a popular song amongst different teams in different countries. Like Dortmund, Celtic, Liverpool. I'm sure it's used in a lot of other places. But like you say, I didn't pick up on the "Give Peace a Chance" song, but I heard this because again recognizable still. But
yeah. It's not. It didn't feel the same as when Anfield does it. It wasn't the entire of Wembley together in an amazing moment. It just it was like another chant amongst the many.
Yeah,
kind of passed by. Do you think? Would you like to hear like greatest hits of English clubs when England play?
I mean, that's what the England band's for, isn't it? And that's you see how much everyone likes that.
Klaxon, 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 alert, Poland have a corner. Poland have a corner. I repeat, this is not a drill. Straight to Peter Shilton. Just before this, the commentator says Hunter, who's involved in the tackle that leads to the corner, has got through a gallon of work today. Did you know work was measured in that metric?
I did not know that at all. He's not switched over, has he?
A gallon of work. And we're approaching the last 20 minutes. Lovely shot of Tomaszewski at this point. There's 20 minutes to go. He's been involved in the action so much, and we just see him like, when you mentioned the UFC earlier, like just those couple of seconds before a fight, when Bruce Buffer's shouting the name, and they're just there like they're doing the squats, they're stretching their arms, they're stretching the legs out, a bit of neck movement and what have you.
It's a bit like, when if you'd play on like a fighting game like Tekken or something, it's like choose your character, and they're just like arms all over the place and all that. It's like quite Conor McGregor about it, isn't it?
He knows what's coming. He knows what's coming.
I mean, he is making the ball come to him like an absolute magnet at this point as well. I mean,
saying he's making it, that's a bit harsh on him.
It seems to be, because any old cross or kick is heading towards him and no one could do anything about it. How many times have you seen like a cross in this game and for some reason it just goes towards his goal, not towards an England player?
Yeah, I mean, he makes a great save with his feet at this point, and a bit of excellent commentary.
Colin Bell. Shannon. Shivers. Saved by Shimanovsky. Tomaszewski's not there. Tomaszewski, an incredible Well saved, kicked it away from Clough. Now Hughes. Overrun it. He's overrun it. Now you got to watch Poland as they break out again.
There's pinball yet again, and Poland somehow escape after Tomaszewski saves with his feet. I mean, the commentator is reaching Motson levels of madness here.
I made a note at this point, something that completely shocked me. I was almost left mouth agape. There's only one commentator in this game. This man has been doing it all on his own.
I thought I saw in your notes it said he's been talking to himself for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It feels like a man's just gone mad in a cupboard, doesn't it?
That's not even when we watched the 67 game. That was 2 commentators. Just surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, budget cuts maybe.
Yeah, well, you never know here, but we've got,
The onslaught continues, Nick.
Oh, it really does. So you got Norman Bite Your Legs, Hunter, as Clough christened him, even as a shot saved by our star attraction. England are committing so many players forward. Poland are finding time now to actually start to break into England's half. I mean, nothing comes of this single situation here, but it starts to develop now where England are so gung-ho.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There's a little foul from Musial
Yeah.
on Curry, and the referee says plays on. There's a cross from Cannon and a head over from Clark, but I don't know if the referee should have played on from that foul. The commentator noticed getting a bit wild.
And a bit wild out there, isn't it? It's like he's just coming from like a war zone or something. It's just like, oh, it's crazy out there. You don't want to go near that.
That wasn't a great tackle, but what I will say is I think I was wrong to be so suspicious about this Polish team. They're good lads.
Yeah, they're good, honest lads in red, aren't they?
Yeah, they've played fair. They've got stuck in. They've not really done anything too outrageous so far or suspicious. So,
but
Poland, I take it back. I'm very sorry for being suspicious.
You do get it from the commentator again with these professional fouls and all this kind of thing. It's like if England do it, it's one thing. If a commentator does it, it's another. But yeah, you've got pretty much Hughes and Hunter both pretty much playing in midfield now. They're just pushing so many people up, but Tomaszewski is busy yet again.
Tony Curry. Peters. Hughes has gone on running. It's a fine ball for him. Far post. He's given it. Has he? Well, he's given the corner eventually.
This is the save of the game. Yeah. Oh my God. What a save by Tomaszewski. Peters on the left find Hughes on the underlap who crosses it. The ball falls for Clark, whose touch isn't great, right? It isn't a great touch, but it means he's got to put his whole foot through the shot. So this is levered. This is a levered ball, and he's about 7 yards away from Tomaszewski. And it just... This is a proper cat. This is a proper cat save. Amazing reaction save to his left for a corner. The game stops for a second. Yeah. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. They don't know if the referee's blown for a foul, a corner, or he's just having a moment to marvel at the save. Nobody can believe it. The commentator is shell-shocked. And Nick, come on, let's give this man... He can't be deemed a clown after that.
No, I don't think so at all. This is when you see like the eccentricities of what he's doing, but we've seen 2 pretty much world-class saves. This one as well, 7 yards out to his left, and pretty much it's with his broken hand as well, I think.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. So hard. This man is so hard.
No, when you look at, doing your research, you hear a lot about Tomaszewski in this game, and you think, okay, well, is it a bit of a myth in terms of what he did? And you think, actually, are many of his saves that routine? I mean, there's the one in the first half, but this one is anything but routine.
I mean, he hasn't made routine saves look routine, but that one, if you can make a save from that position, then, Godspeed you, mate, because I don't know how the hell he did that.
So Mushau with a professional foul to stop an England player, and he isn't booked. About 6 seconds later, Poland are in.
This is wacky. This is wacky.
So the keeper throws it out to Tomaszewski, who heads on to Leto. His touch is so good at this point, and he's through on goal for Poland out of nowhere. McFarlane does everything he can to pull Leto back to stop him from getting a shot on Shilton's goal. Incredibly, it's only a yellow card. He is all alone and brings him down.
That is a positive booking.
Oh, I mean, what on earth?
Another nugget of gold there. Nick, I've got to say at this point, this is a really, really, really good game. This is probably the best game we've covered.
I think it's so end-to-end, isn't it, as well? I mean, the commentator calls it the unpleasant little phrase of the professional foul, which I really liked. But it's a bit similar to, in The Impossible Job, David Platt being brought down on the edge of the Netherlands area. It's really similar to that. And again, that's a red card in the 90s. they must have changed the rules at some point to say this is a red card, because he has half the pitch in front of him and McFarlane just goes, yep, you're not going anywhere.
Mental. Well, wacky. Wacky was a word I used to describe that. I think we get something that's very much more wacky up next. What are England doing here?
Oh my God, how have Poland not scored at this point? So there's a through ball to Leto, who's essentially playing as a striker now. McFarland is on the near side of the camera appealing for offside, and he's nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Leto's one-on-one with Shilton, and the whole of Wembley just goes quiet for a second. Shilton actually does really well to force him wide, and attacks just comes to nothing actually when Kasper Jack shoots.
I don't know how
over.
that didn't come. I've never seen a bit of defending like that. He's just like, yeah, I put my hand up for offside, and this guy who we know is quick, he's just running through. I don't know how that wasn't a goal.
I don't know how he doesn't take it around Shilton. Shilton again, he stands him up really well, forces him wide, and the shot comes to nothing in the end. The chance does anyway, and it's just,
there's not long left, Nick. I don't know how much more I can take.
it's like being waterboarded. It is relentless, and I feel knackered watching this and talking about it again. I mean,
absolutely,
the England players look exhausted. I mean, Curry's just falling over as he's taking shots, and the coverage are intermittently showing the clock again. Whenever there's just a break-in player, they're going, "This is how long's left."
Time is of the essence. The commentator notes on 84 minutes, a bit of gold. I loved this. This was probably my favourite line of the match from him. Poland have got 6 minutes on my watch to live to gain a prize of a trip to Germany for the World Cup finals.
Fantastic. That
To live.
They're
They're fine. Like, they're absolutely fine. They've got to hang on, but they've just nearly scored.
They're living dangerously.
To be fair, they're not fine. That was ridiculous. They are living very dangerously. We've had about 100 corners.
There's a substitution for England. Kevin Hector, described as a prolific goal scorer, comes on for Chivers.
Apparently, Kevin Hector has got more than 200 league goals by this point, but it's his first international cap.
I was so crushingly disappointed when Kevin Keegan wasn't brought off, and I was looking for him on the bench as well. I was stopping the video every frame just to see a little bit of that permed head on there, but yeah, no luck.
Seconds left, and England have a corner.
Hector, I think. I'm sure it was Hector. We can see it again.
Somehow it doesn't go in. He does it. So Tomaszewski comes again, doesn't get the ball. Kevin Hector beats him to it, heads it down, and it's double kneed off the line.
Double knee off the line. My God, this game, we've had so many corners against the keeper who can't defend corners, and we finally breach him, and there's just a man with two knees there, knee. Oh my God,
a man with two knees. I mean, at this point, is that it?
Hughes, tremendous tackle by Shemikiewicz. Was Peters. Gorgon got in the way. Bell. And he cannons away. Saki kicks it off the line. The ball had beaten Tomaszewski. He was still off his line from Bell's shot. And Bulzaki was the man, Bulzatski, who knocked it out.
Another chance for England. Oh my God.
Ball into the area. Tomaszewski comes, punches it.
Shock.
But only it only gets to Bell on the edge of the area, shoots. Shot takes a deflection, and it's cleared off the line again. Twice in the space of 2 minutes, Poland clear the ball off the line.
Cursed. I was saying it from the top. I said a lot of things. I said a lot about homoeroticism at the top, which it didn't really play out. I've said a lot about the Polish being shifty in this game, which didn't really play out. But the curse is true, mate. Wow. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, the curse comes full circle, and the curse is complete.
Poland qualify. England do not qualify. England aren't going to the World Cup in 1974. Let's again take a moment to breathe. Oh my God.
We get to calm down now. I mean, you look at the scenes on the pitch. I'm unsure if they're Polish fans, family, whoever. They're just running onto the pitch to celebrate with the Poland players. They're going to the World Cup. England aren't.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, great celebrations for Poland. Fair play to them. But do England have nobody but themselves to blame, or is this just, my God, what has happened?
I think both things can be true, really. You look at Tomaszewski pulled off some good saves. They wasted. I wouldn't say anyone missed a sitter in the game. I don't think they just made enough chances where you're like, well, this has to be a goal. I mean, near the end, Poland are they're scrambling to get it away and they're doing the best they can. But on another day, a couple of those probably go in for England. But at the same time, you wouldn't deny Poland a draw, especially with some of the chances they had late on to kill the game.
No, you're right. Well, let's get to the typical digging up the graves and bloody. Let's analyze what happened after this. This is like.
Well, this is now officially the earliest that we could have covered England going out of a World Cup, isn't it? We haven't even got there yet.
The Sun, in the aftermath of this, would call it the end of the world. Nick, we've seen that somewhere before, haven't we?
Yeah, a line that just seems to be on standby, doesn't it? It was used on our beloved Graham Taylor previously. Yeah. It seems that it was always there, just in the background, ready to be used.
And big Brian, big Cloughy, he's always got something to say, hasn't he?
Yeah, magnanimous as you'd expect, continues to back himself. And actually, I'm not sure who the co-com person is in the studio who is with him, but he does actually, I think, say him right.
We've seen Shilton make great saves like that, but I mean, he was presumably cold because he'd been out of the action for so long.
With the blood in his teeth, if he'd been involved in any of the actions that other clown at the other end was.
Yeah, but you keep calling him, Brian, you keep calling him a clown. That's right. But in fact, that fellow has made some fantastic saves, and he's kept England back.
Brian, we just watched an hour and a half's football now, and the other goalkeeper, the reason why Poland's gone through to Munich next year is because he did his job well tonight, and he had all the luck that was going. Peter Shilton only had 2 shots, and I thought that Peter Shilton should have stopped that particular one. I am here for my opinion, and I think that Peter Shilton should have stopped that, and I don't think that the other goalkeeper is a clown, and I think that that's very unfair.
Yeah, well, make what you will of that. I mean, nobody's going to shut him up anyway on those, so that will just be water off a duck's back.
He'd be very these days, wouldn't he? He's very InfoWars in terms of, well, I still think this, so I'm just going to shout over you. Very, all these kind of people. And I mean, Alf Ramsey.
Alf Ramsey. Let's say what happens to our great king, because I don't think he can last this.
No, he does keep his job currently, but he is sacked and replaced with Don Revie within 6 months.
Big Don,
yeah, Big Don.
Who we mentioned at the top of the podcast.
Yeah. Legendary Leeds manager, did so well, but again, his England tenure does end up being quite snake bitten as well. But this brings England's truly dark period into not qualifying for a tournament until World Cup '86.
And our listeners will be glad to know that we're actually pledging to cover every single game between now and then. Next,
I know. Yeah, actually, I think it's 82. I think it is. I think it's the World Cup '82. So that's still from 74 to 82. That's a big gap.
Dark period.
That's a lot of home nations games, isn't it?
Yeah. Nick, do we want to sum it up now?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to sum up a little bit about Poland just quickly because
that's fair.
Years later, Mick Channon said that although Poland had a few good players, they weren't a good side, and the larger sample size of Olympic gold medal and their performance in the '74 World Cup shows that they were.
How did they get
on
at the World Cup? Do you know?
So they'd end up winning all their games at the tournament until they reached the semi-finals, where they lost out to eventual winners West Germany. However, they beat Brazil in the 3rd place playoff, so they finished 3rd in the World Cup.
And that's the real quiz.
That literally is. There could be no other quiz when Mick Channon and the others are saying, Poland, lucky, they weren't that good of a team. But in reality, they were a very good team, and they were probably Poland's golden generation.
Well, that was the real quiz, but there's only one question left. Nick, was this England?
It's a bit of both, isn't it?
I'm very unsure of my answer.
I don't know. I mean, England dominating the game and not winning it, I'd say that probably is in that category. England not qualifying for a World Cup isn't.
No, we're not the type who don't qualify for World Cups. It has happened, but we've covered 2 instances of it happening.
Both of them in living memory, really. I mean, England also making a villain out of a hero. That is very England, isn't it? Because Tomaszewski comes out of this, he easily has the last laugh.
Oh yeah,
he is the hero of the game. I know there's other great Poland performances, but
I would say actually. My main point on this is that it's almost a bit too intense of a failure to be England. Like, that is so dramatic. Usually, I feel like it's a bit more damp squibby.
Yeah.
But we were still going, and it was like a once in a lifetime performance from their goalkeeper. It's almost like if you were to make a film about England failure and you did this, you'd watch it and you go, it's a bit on the nose, and it's a bit simple.
It's like when you look at films that come from football, very few of them do the football well. It's always very Hollywoodified and all this other stuff. I mean, again, we always go back to Mike Bassett.
Yeah.
Even that seems quite unrealistic because England do well in a tournament and it's all like this big revelation and stuff. It's very hard to do football well in film, but I think they would, this would be a thing of, if you were making a film of England not qualifying, it would be something like this.
I feel like I've watched the film. I don't know what film that would be. If you know what film it feels like I've just watched, then get in touch. We're on social media, Instagram and Twitter at isthisengland. You can get in touch on email at isthisenglandpod@gmail.com. Nick, thank you so much. You made a really good suggestion here for this game.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? I think if we could have picked a 70s game, I think we've picked a pretty brilliant one with a great side. I think you've actually said, why do you end up loving so many of the teams we end up covering that aren't England teams?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, the Scotland team, this team. We should do Is This teams who've played England.
Well, that's the next step, isn't it? But thanks everyone for listening. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Take care.